Let me ask you to come to order, please. This is Tuesday, September the 27th, meeting of the Economic and Development Committee. Curran Price, Chair. I'm honored and pleased to be joined by my colleagues, Councilmember Marquise Harris-Dawson, Councilmember Paul Krikorian, Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell, and who knows, we may have one or two others before the afternoon is done. We have another action-packed agenda. We're going to take a general public comment at this time, and we've got one from, Mr. Pig.
All right, good economic development. So one thing we always want to remember, if you get in trouble with your business, you can file for bankruptcy. Now there's two kinds, Chapter 13 and Chapter 11, and I think the city should have on their website available materials for this type of filing. There's nothing wrong with a legitimate business filing to reorganize. Sometimes it happens. You get a certain business and it becomes obsolete, etc., and then you file to reorganize. Bankruptcy for businesses. So we're going to be talking about stuff today, but again, it's very good. The pig later will be able to speak about some of these issues. It's always brought to you by PDQ. Printing.
Okay, thank you. We've got one more. Antonia Ramirez. General comment, 1 minute.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, let's stop the military veteran suicides. They are going up in leaps and bounds. Again, our United States military veterans, many of them are committing suicide because they can't find jobs. They're more than qualified. They're highly skilled and highly brilliant. I mean, this is not a laughing matter. We're too busy employing these goddamn wetbacks and gangbangers, but yet we can't employ a United States military veteran. How possible is that? I don't understand. And again, ladies and gentlemen, let's start hiring skilled, highly skilled, proficient, highly dedicated, highly disciplined, punctual military veterans, whether they are active or inactive, on duty or not on duty. But let's get them housed and also supplied with a job. They need jobs, ladies and gentlemen. Businesses, they need jobs now, not tomorrow, now. God bless America and Donald Trump.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the public comment. We will close it. Members, without objection, we're going to continue item 1 at the request of the council office. And I'd like to move item 4 on consent. Oh, we got some cards? Okay. We'll take cards, I'm sorry. Item 4, Mr. Clerk, could you read that to us?
Item number 4 is a city clerk report and ordinance of intention relative to the Chatsworth Business Improvement District reconfirmation procedure for fiscal year 2016-17.
Okay, and Antonia Ramirez and Mr. Pig. This is item 4.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is Mitchell Englander, who is demanding that the Chatsworth business merchants provide all business improvements in their district. I say hell no. Let Mitchell Englander and the gas companies pay and absorb all business costs and all business improvements. That includes repairs, restorations, resurfacing, and disinfecting, and cleaning, and just bleaching and fumigating the whole entire Chatsworth area, the business area. Again, we should have to put the cost on the business merchants because they're already suffering in a really compromised economy. It isn't fair to them. So again, help them jumpstart their businesses because we are, even if we are pending in a bubble burst, we may be going into an economic collapse today or the 30th. That's what they're predicting. God help us. Again, Mitchell Englander, pay for all the costs and the homelessness too.
Thank you. Why don't you just hold your seat, if you don't mind. We'll call you back up for items 2 and 3. Sir?
Okay, the pig will address.
Thank you very much. So this, item 4, is the business bullshit district. Chatsworth has been affected negatively by gas. Gas everywhere. See, I'm choking right now on the gas from Aliso Canyon. And all of you promised the business owners, if you stay in Chatsworth, we will waive the BID fees for 3 years. Fucking liars. Liar, liar, liar. And now the businesses are required to pay for the bid. No, the gas company and Mitchell Englander's office holder account must pay for these for the next 3 years. You promised, do not make liars out of the pig, especially out of this honorable committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to, we're going to take items 2 and 3 together.
Okay, sir.
Mr. Mears, if you'd like, you've got a comment.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, on the members of the Workforce Development Board, we need someone like Sheriff Joe Arpaio to build up this workforce development where we will hire good, law-abiding young kids, whether they are black, white, and or Asian. Most of our Latinos are, if not all, are illegal wetbacks and gangbangers, and they are gang indoctrinated. Not all of them are like good LAPD officer Marco Duarte, who has no gang ties, who is a lawful, legal, law-abiding Mexican-American, and whom I respect, and he's rare. This is a rare Mexican, because rare Mexicans like him, you will never find again. I say again, ladies, hire these young black kids before they ever get into drugs, white and Asian, and get them housed and get them jobs. They need jobs right now. Get rid of these goddamn wetbacks and gangbangers and deport these bastards. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Okay, the pig has notes.
This is it. Look at this. The Industrial Development Bullshit Authority Bullshit Board of Directors. Terminated. It does not create jobs. Not one job in 22 years net in LA City, the only metropolitan statistic area to have a negative job growth in 22 fucking years. Now the Workforce Development Board, it sounds good, doesn't it? It sounds like using the force. May the force be with you. May the force create jobs. It's as fake as Yoda the puppet. But I'm here, Papita Pig, real. And I'm telling you right now, this is another waste of time. Do not select anyone to this board. Terminate it and turn it into a Taco Bell.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clerk, items 2 and 3, please.
Item number 2 is a communication from the mayor relative to appointments of members to the Workforce Development Board for the term of July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2018. Item number 3 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Mr. Brian Falls to the Industrial Development Authority Board of Directors for the term ending June 30th, 2017.
Okay, thank you. These are 2 very important commissions and a series of appointments that the mayor is making. The Workforce Development Board, there are a total of 36 members being appointed by the mayor. How many are with us today? Workforce Board members, can we ask you to come to the table? Thank you for your comments. Anybody here from the workforce? Okay. The other is the Industrial Development Authority Board, and I know that Mr. Falls is here. Mr. Falls, why don't you come to the table? And again, the Industrial Development Authority Board has certainly some important responsibilities as our city moves forward. We're pleased that you've agreed to step up to the plate.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you hope to accomplish on this board, and any other thoughts you'd like to share with us.
Sure. My name is Brian Falls. I've worked in planning, development, and entitlements in the city of LA for about 18 years. I started my career working on Playa Vista. From there, I worked on the redevelopment of NBC Universal, most recently the redevelopment of Macy's Plaza here in downtown, which is now known as The Block. And more recently, I'm working on a site on the Echo Park in downtown Border. I have a passion for the city. I've done a lot of work on the front end of planning and entitlements with The Block in particular. Did a lot of work on getting the merchants along 7th Street gathered together to help them build a better business, up and down 7th Street, and utilizing that project as a form of economic development for the area. I think in the absence of the redevelopment agency, there's a lot of opportunity for this commission to be able to help expand economic development in the city, and I hope to be able to help with that.
Well, I agree, and I think that you've got the breadth and depth of experience that will really add to the discussion, especially in a time of limited resources when we're making efforts to leverage those limited resources, especially around economic development initiatives.
Thank you.
Members, any questions at this time? Okay. Well, I'm, Mr. Falls, happy to say that you've got the unanimous approval of this committee.
Thank you.
We'll be passing your name forward to the, where does it go? Going to council? Oh, great. So
All right.
hopefully within the next day or two, we'll be in council, and we'll be supporting your nomination. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, members, without objection, we will approve those appointments, items 2 and items 3. Okay. Item 5. Mr. Clerk.
Item number 5 is a city attorney report and ordinances relative to adding Article 22 to Chapter 1 of Division 10 of the Los Angeles Municipal Code to limit city contractors' consideration of the criminal history of applicants for employment. 2, adding Article 9 to Chapter 18th of the Los Angeles Municipal Code to limit employers' consideration of the criminal history of applicants for employment, and adding Article 22 to Chapter 1 of Division 10 of the Los Angeles Administrative Code.
Thank you. We are excited to have a discussion this afternoon about the Fair Chance Ordinance, or Ban the Box, something I know that many have worked on for a long time. We've got several comment cards. Just ask that you keep your comments to a minute so we can have a chance to hear all the comments. So let's come up in groups of 3. Catherine Clay, Lucina Thomas, and James Dunaway. Or Dunaway? And Larry Thompson. We'll put in 4 for good measure.
Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Clay. I'd like to thank you all for having this item on the agenda. I think that it's really important to have this conversation because banning the box, the county needs to be able to lead by example. And so how do we expect to have people with lived experience working with people from jail and reentry and diversion if we can't ban the box that we all have the lived experience? We have the trust to be able to trust each other. But if this box is going to keep us from working with each other, then how do we expect to also rebuild and redevelop our communities when it comes to reentry and diversion? So it's really important to have your support to ban this box. And so I'm currently going through a process with Department of Mental Health. But because of my prior background, they're questioning. And I'm just saying, like, how do I be able to show my lived experience and able to display that we can re-enter back into the community successfully if we keep having this box? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here representing Homeboy Industries and LA Voice. So I want to say just 10 years ago, it was either sink or swim for me. I'm an ex-gang member. And Marquise Harris Dawson decided to take a chance on me by hiring me at an organization called the Community Coalition that he worked at for over a decade. And it saved my life. If it wasn't for that job, because I couldn't get a job anywhere else, because people kept looking at my record, they kept denying me, they wouldn't look at me and recognize the skills that I had and that I was willing to, to take an opportunity and take it all away, and I was determined to do that. And he gave me that opportunity, and I took it, and I worked there for 10 years, and now I work for Homeboy Industries, and I think that's a testament to when you give people a second chance and you give them an opportunity to do something when they want to do something different, when they want to change their lives and they want to give back to the community. I think that we should give people that opportunity and give them jobs. If we say that people have paid their debt to society, then let that be and give people an opportunity to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello. My name is James Dunaway.
A little closer to the mic. Pull it up.
My name is James Dunaway. I represent Homeboys Industry. Father Greg gave me a shot at second chance, being that I just got out a few months ago, and I tried to apply my skills that I got from being incarcerated. And based on that box, I've been denied. I learned several trades while I was down: carpentry, welding, buildings maintenance, and I got out, tried to apply all these, these skills, and basically no callbacks. Father G helped me out with this job right now, also helped me with other trades that I'm trying to get into, but with this box, it's like a waste of time. It's just like having a college degree with with nowhere to teach, with no one to instruct. So what I'm asking is to please lift the block.
Thank you.
Good
Mr. Thompson.
afternoon. My name is Larry Thompson. I work for the LA Chamber of Commerce. Prior to that, I worked 30 years in the private sector, retired 2 years ago as a senior vice president from Xerox Corporation. So I'm pleased to be here, and thank you for this time. The Chamber strongly supports Prop 47, has strongly supported AB 218, and supports the Fair Chance Hiring Ordinance. There are a couple of items that we'd like to provide input to perhaps make that amendment more effective. So the request to the city attorney to prepare and present an ordinance to require city contractors and private employers with 10 or more employees to remove questions regarding their criminal history from job applications, and require that any questions related to criminal history not be asked until a job is offered.
Okay, thank you. We're going to just have to limit your comment. Do you want to just sum up your...
Secondly, the BCA Bureau of Contract Administration recommends that private right of action be included to provide an additional enforcement option for people who are previously incarcerated. However,
Okay, thank you. I'm going to have to cut you off. I'm sorry, everyone.
I'm done?
Yes, sir. Minute's up.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is my first time here. I didn't know we moved
Okay,
that
it's a
quickly.
quick-
I thought you were kidding when you said 2 minutes. But anyway,
No, 1 minute.
maybe I may have get it.
Please submit your statement to us.
Okay. Actually, we've sent a letter to Mr.
Yes, we've received it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Reverend Bowie, Eva Bernhard, and Jury Katz, and Meglia Jackson. You've got 1 minute, please. Reverend, why don't you begin?
Good afternoon. One, I'd like to thank all of you for your hard work to continue to push for banding the box, and I'm just here once again to continue to support your hard work. Also, I'm here and showing appreciation for all of your hard work, and I just hope that you would vote yes in favor of this. And also, it's very important that we give individuals another chance. Some of us don't get it right on the second chance, so some of us need another chance. And I believe this gives an opportunity for individuals who have paid their dues to society, and I believe that we would want to rehabilitate opposed to continue to annihilate or destroy lives. And I just hope that we continue to move forward on this issue in a positive way, and that this measure will be passed eventually, and we will lead the way as a leading city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anjali Kronheim-Katz, the regional organizer with Bend the Arc, a Jewish Partnership for Justice. Thanks for having me. Our organization organizes the Jewish community around progressive domestic campaigns, and we've joined this coalition of Homeboy, A New Way of Life, LA Voice sort of late, and the coalition asked us to prioritize reaching out to businesses to get some support. So the letter that you guys just got shows 21 businesses supporting this initiative, so it's a really broad base of support around this. We're thrilled that this is moving forward, and I don't know if you guys know, but next week is the Jewish New Year, so it would be a great start to the new year if we pass this ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. My name is Megasha Jackson. I'm a mother of 3. I am a felon. I can't excuse the things that I had to do just to remain in society, so I have apologized for breaking the law. And I have a state license that I had to basically go to the state building and ask for them to reinstate my license to be able to support my children.
What kind of license was it?
And with that, they did support me and give me a chance, but actually getting a job, even though they gave me my license, was still hard. So with this, it will help felons and people who...
What kind of license was it?
A cosmetology license, actually. It's kind of hard to even get a hair license now with felonies. So with that, people do need a second chance. They call you a gang. If you talk to people in the same group, you're a gang. So they want to affiliate you with negative things. And by banning the box and using other information to help felons or people that have found themselves in trouble have a second chance is a beautiful thing, because being a second-class citizen is very stressful to raise kids.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Hi, my name is Ava Barron, and I'm here today on behalf of Uber to express our support for Los Angeles' Fair Chance Ordinance and efforts to ban the box. Uber is a proud member of the Mayor's Blue Ribbon Commission on Employment Equity because we believe deeply in the issue of providing second chances that can help people find success in their lives. Uber was proud to join the Obama administration in April as a founding partner for the launch of the Fair Chance Business Pledge. Almost 70 million Americans, nearly 1 in 3 adults, have a criminal record, and we are committed to removing unnecessary barriers that may prevent those individuals with low-level nonviolent offenses from gaining access to employment. Earlier this year, we took the step to voluntarily align our criteria to drive with Uber with Prop 47. As part of this effort, we are notifying people who don't pass Uber's pre-screening process that they can be eligible for getting felonies on their records adjusted under Prop 47. We believe that people should have a fair chance to earn a living with Uber while remaining committed to safety before, during, and after a ride. We are proud to work and operate in a city that feels the same way, and we stand in wholehearted support of the LA Fair Chance Ordinance.
Thank you. Next up, Lakis, Jacqueline Gloss, Ingrid Archie, and Jonathan Herrera. It's okay. Pick a seat, any seat.
Oh. So my name is Lakis. I'm with WOJO, Women Organizing for Justice and Opportunity. We, as a whole, everyone makes a mistake, whether you're young, old, or indifferent. You make mistakes. And to actually go to jail, come back out of jail, and not be able to find gainful employment because you have something on your record that says felony, and you don't have, the wages is not enough already. This would help, but actually we need to move towards getting rid of it completely and give a person a chance at that point when they come in to actually look for a job, because being able to being able to judge someone on what they did in the past is not fair, because it's supposed to be in the past. And if we keep looking backwards, eventually you're going to wreck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you. Thank the city attorney for the report, as well as the council, Economic Council Development, for hearing us. Hopefully, your ears, I can persuade your ears and your heart for formerly incarcerated people. Respectfully, these chapters, the ordinance is going into chapters 22 and 9 for respective chapters. Hopefully, this will alleviate some of the financial hardship. I can say for myself, I'm sorry, from Women Organizing for Justice and Opportunity, and also a single mom of 3 and grandmother of 10. All my children are master's degrees, educated, working, but their mom is still suffering. Volunteer every day, all day, been out of prison since 1996, cannot get a job in this field. I have 2 associate degrees.
In which field?
Community and mental health, drug and alcohol counseling. Why wouldn't I be the perfect fit for this? I have lived experience, so hopefully this ordinance will persuade your hearts to put this in effect, and you'll see the hope in the heart of formerly incarcerated people. We're powerful people.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ingrid Archie, and I represent A New Way of Life, and I just would like to say thank you for all of your support that you have showed for the Fair Chance Initiative and all of the work that has been done on behalf of A New Way of Life and Homeboys Industries and all the work that we put in to be able to sit here today. What the Fair Chance Initiative means to me is the fact that I was just released from prison last year, and looking for a job was very hard. I didn't get that fair chance. The fair chance I got was from the person that I work for, which is Susan Burton, and she has an organization, which is A New Way of Life, which helps women who come from being incarcerated and being disenfranchised. And I got that chance to be able to work and to be able to advocate and to be able to organize for people who come from where I've came from and give them that hope. And also because Uber partnered with the people who got out from Prop 47. I now work for Uber. And I just want you guys to know that, because you guys were given the fair chance to give other people the fair chance, that we need to keep that ball moving forward, and we need to give hope to our communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Jonathan Herrera with FICA, the Valley Industry and Commerce Association. We represent over 400 nonprofits and businesses in Los Angeles, many of whom would be affected by this ordinance and be liable. We do have some concerns. Telling businesses how to hire without clearly outlining exemptions will be costly for the city without taking a proven course to reduce recidivism, which is the main goal here. This process, the procedures should be rewritten to provide for clarity for local and small businesses. We ask that the ordinance include an informational campaign, this is critical, to further clarify what would be required of employers under this ordinance. That way they're ready if something like this were to pass. However, more importantly, we do urge this committee to consider other alternatives for that main goal, which is reducing recidivism, finding alternatives to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies.
Okay, Brandon Estrin, Suzette Shaw, Mr. Pig, and Ms. Ramirez. Followed by Jamie Garcia.
Hi, my name is Brandon Estrin. I am here on behalf of Beit Shuva, a Jewish Recovery Center and Reentry Program, also with the LA Voice. I was a nonprofit executive. I've helped develop healthcare systems in third world countries. I'm also now a felon and jobless, working on reintegrating back into society. Because of my felony, I'm no longer able to do the work of helping others that I love so much. There's a Jewish concept of Shuva, a daily repentance of every day for what I've done. Well, what about what I'm going to do or who I'm going to be? I want to contribute. I want to help others again. This legislation would allow me and others to not just let our past define who we are and who we may become, but what we can contribute to our communities. Thank you for helping me, for hopefully helping me and allowing me to rediscover my passion in life, which is helping others.
Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Suzette Shaw. I stand before you today as a Skid Row resident and a member of Women Organizing for Justice Opportunities. In my former life, I was a recruitment and hiring manager who has worked in employment relations where I recruited and hired thousands. Nevertheless, in 2012, I lost my last sustainable job as a human resources and operations manager, consequently losing my home of approximately 7 years and ending up homeless. In that time that I diligently sought employment, I found that too often I was discriminated against for a prior bogus charge, which I was never convicted, and the charge was consequently was also expunged. Yet, on applications and interviews, I found myself having to communicate on applications and where I should have a charge which I should have never been charged with. I've never spoken publicly about this matter. I've been traumatized by it. It was a personal family matter. But today I stand before you letting go of the shame and wanting to ask you, I'm compelled to speak with you and ask you to please ban the box. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. On the eve of the Jewish New Year, Erev Rosh Hashanah, this ordinance, which I call the Chango Wetback Criminal Gangbanging Ordinance, is you need to have full disclosure, because what you do is you are going to bring an onslaught of lawsuits. And me, I'm speaking specifically about the gangbangers and the Latino community, because I am a victim of gang stalking, vandalism, graffiti, theft, mail theft, ID theft, assaults, and all sorts of egregious crimes against me by these Latino gangbangers. So I say no, do not limit the information or the history or the criminal history of these gangbangers. Expose it and bring full disclosure and full transparency, because you're putting yourselves in lawsuit and you are putting us in danger. Hell no. You expose these gangbangers for what they are: criminal, cockroaches, deviant, diabolical mothers, because I get assaulted every freaking night. That's why I'm homeless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments.
All right, very good for the pig.
Yes, so for more information on Ban the Box, call 213-485-7616. The phone number again, 213-485-7616 to the Ban the Box telephone. And would you want to go for a job and you have been falsely accused of a crime and it's a felony, you can check no on the fucking box. That's the good thing. An arrest is not a conviction. So an arrest is merely something the police do. When they're done writing their tickets, they make arrests. So again, yes to the ban if there's been no charges filed. So 213-485-7616, the number to salvation.
Thank you.
Grown man, it's a damn shame.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
Good afternoon. Jaime Garcia with the Hospital Association of Southern California, representing over 40 hospitals within the city's jurisdiction. It's no secret that hospitals are complex institutions that are highly regulated by the state and federal government. But also, one of those things that, as we talk about the Affordable Care Act, we have more hospitals contracting with Medi-Cal. And one of the things that Medi-Cal requires is a hospital to attest that no one in their administration or within their employment has committed fraud against the government in terms of fraud against the Medi-Cal program. But I think earlier this year, I think in June to be exact, this committee held a hearing that focused on a report that was prepared by the Bureau of Contract Administration, which I believe was very well written. And it highlighted important issues that must be carefully taken into consideration as the city moves forward to implementing this ban the box item. The Bureau of Contract Administration recommended that, and I believe this committee approved it, that the report include recommendations in terms of specific exemptions, areas of that would be exempted from this ban the box issue. And I don't see that actually articulated in the report. It does talk about people who would be required to carry a firearm, or people who are specifically prohibited from working in specific areas, but it doesn't highlight the other exemption areas, which I think is lacking in the ordinance that's proposed here before you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the insight.
Thank you for your comments. That concludes our public comment. And again, I want to thank all the speakers, those in favor and those who still have some concerns about it, for your comments. After more than 2 years of hard work, we now have an ordinance before us that will remove the box from job applications in Los Angeles and provide a fair chance for everyone seeking employment in the city. I'd like to thank the advocates that are here with us today who partnered with us from the very beginning, including A New Way of Life, LA Voice, Homeboy Industries, and All or None, and other organizations, and also members of the business community who provided input and insight and a point of view that has been very helpful. I also want to thank my colleagues, those here on the committee, the city staff, the CLA, the BCA, and the city attorney's office for working with us on this. And of course, we've had the support of Mayor Garcetti from the very beginning. Colleagues, the Fair Chance Ordinance before us today will not only eliminate the criminal history question from job applications, but it's built upon the best practices in other cities, so that the criminal history is not discussed until after a conditional offer of employment has been made. The ordinance also provides applicants with a fair chance process so that they can provide an employer with information or documentation regarding the accuracy of their criminal history or reports, for example, if they had gone through rehab or had a change or had their record expunged. They'd have an opportunity to present this information. And of course, there will be enforcement through the Office of Wage Standards, the same group that is going to be enforcing our minimum wage policy. I believe it's a strong ordinance, and with our vote today, we are moving one step closer to enactment, ultimately benefiting tens of thousands of Angelenos throughout the city. But before I bring the city attorney up and the Bureau of Contract Administration up, I'd like to ask my colleagues if they've got any comments, general comments to make at this time. After your comments. You gonna,
No comments, just questions.
Okay. Then let's ask the city. I'm sorry, go ahead, Councilman.
A couple comments as folks come forward to the table to answer some questions. First, I want to thank everybody who came and told their story. When you are in a position of needing a second chance, it's not easy to be real public about that. And so we thank you for doing that. We recognize that that's a big deal. I especially am happy to see Kusima Thomas here. And just add to the comments that not only did our organization benefit from having Kusima as a employee, he was able to help bring so many people back into the legal economy, back into mainstream life, and make them contributing members of society. Because it's not an option to just throw people away and just decide these people don't count anymore, and we're going to let them float in the ether. And so I'm very grateful to Kusima and all the people who are at various organizations and businesses doing that work. Hopefully, when folks comment, they can comment on this anomaly that was created by that we were concerned about. I feel like we've been working on this about 6 or 7 years now, but there's a problem with the Affordable Care Act that basically brought substance abuse recovery into the medical model, right? So it made it, you had to partner with a federally qualified health clinic and so on and so forth. And the requirements on medical facilities are much more stringent than other businesses, and so certainly than treatment facilities have been. Treatment facilities actually rely on people who are in recovery and have lived experiences to help other people get into recovery. And so I know that anomaly has been a problem from the beginning. I hope if someone knows about that they can speak to that particular problem, because it's a particular sticking point on this issue of banning the box, not just here in LA, but around the country.
Thank you, Councilman, for your comment. Let's hear from our city attorney and from the Bureau of Contract Administration.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm Curtis S. Kidder, an assistant city attorney. I helped draft the ordinance along with my colleague, if I might, David Michelson. I don't want to go over in specifics. I want to give you just a general overview of the ordinance. I don't want to repeat anything that Mr. Chair has provided to the board or to the committee. Basically, before you today are two ordinances. The first one amends the provisions of the city's municipal code that regulates activities of private employers. The other ordinance amends the city administrative code to affect the conduct of the city's contractors and subcontractors that provide services to the city. Each of the ordinances, they're fairly similar in their scope. They impose 3 requirements on employers, and this is found in section 18902, 03, and 04 of the ordinance that amends the municipal code. And those 3 provisions are as follows. 1, it prohibits employers from including on their employment applications the box, whether the employee has been convicted of a criminal offense. It also prohibits an employer from inquiring of an employee that is doing an investigation of any nature as to whether the employee has been convicted of a criminal offense, and that is until a conditional offer of employment has been made to that applicant. The third provision is if, in fact, that applicant has been convicted of a criminal offense, it requires the employer to conduct an assessment of the relationship between that criminal conviction and the duties and responsibilities of the position. Now, instead of trying to recreate a standard, because it is a fairly complicated process, we've really borrowed just from the United States Equal Opportunity Commission's enforcement guidelines as to their assessment or this linkage between the criminal conviction and the duties and responsibilities of the job position. If the employer finds that there is this linkage, they then need to advise the applicant that they're going to either withdraw the conditional offer of employment or otherwise fail to hire this person. The applicant then gets the fair chance process, and that is they have the opportunity to submit to the employer any information or documentation of mitigating circumstances or evidence that the information the employer had was incorrect.
Another 5 days to provide this information, correct?
There's a 5-day period, that's correct. The employer is prohibited from filling the position during this fair chance period. The employer then, if information is submitted by the applicant, the employer then has the opportunity, or is required, I should say, to reassess the relationship between the criminal conviction and the job duties. If the employer at that point will make a decision that, no adverse action is required, he goes ahead and hires the employee, or they can take the adverse action and either withdraw the offer or otherwise not hire the applicant. A couple other provisions in here. There is a fairly broad exception provision, and instead of trying to list all the type of employment positions that are not subject to this, the coverage of this ordinance, we did it fairly broadly, and that is if under either state or federal law, an employer is prohibited from hiring an applicant who has been convicted of a crime, then it's automatically excluded from our ordinance. The enforcement provisions, there's a civil enforcement provision that allows an applicant who has gone through the process and feel that they've been treated unfairly can file on their own an application in Superior Court and pursue the remedies that way. There's also administrative enforcement that will be handled by the Bureau of Contract Administration, where an applicant can file a complaint with the city that an employer has violated the provisions of the ordinance, and BCA will investigate the action taken by the employer, and they can impose various penalties and sanctions, including fines and penalties that have been directed by the council previously. The second ordinance deals with the city contractors and subcontractors. We've used a fairly broad definition of a contract, and that includes things like leases, construction contracts, contracts for goods and services. As I said, that's a pretty broad definition. The 3 substantive provisions also apply to contractors as they do to the private employers. The ordinance provides some additional remedies for city contractors who violated its provisions, including the city can terminate the contract if, in fact, an employer or a contractor or a subcontractor has violated the provisions of the ordinance. Includes the same exceptions, pretty much the same penalties as in the other ordinance. And with that, I think that's a general overview of the 2 ordinances. I'm open for questions, or if the Bureau of Contract Administration would like to make some comments.
Before we move on, let me just kind of delve into this issue of exemptions that was
Sure.
simply was raised by the councilman and something raised by one or two of the speakers. Could you talk a little bit more about how the exemption would work in the healthcare example, for example, how this exemption kind of plays out and is applicable?
Yeah. So, for instance, if under federal or state law or the regulations implementing those provisions, there's something that says that employers cannot, an employer being a hospital or other health care facility, if there's something in the statute or regulations that provides that they cannot hire an individual who has been convicted of certain types of offenses, such as dealing with drugs or abuse type of convictions, then that is exempt from the ordinance. So and that includes if there's anything in federal or state law that prohibits that, that's automatically incorporated into this ordinance as an exception.
And has that been typical in other jurisdictions, or are we doing something that's kind of new and improved, or has that been standard operating procedure in some of the other jurisdictions that have applied this?
Yeah, it's my understanding there's not a whole lot of other jurisdictions that have ordinances like this. The most similar one is the City of San Francisco's ordinance, and I do believe that they also incorporate exceptions that are in state and federal law. The alternative, of course, would be to identify positions, and that would be a very extensive process.
And as federal or state governments make changes in the future, we'd have to go back and amend the city law. So it's, I think, more effective and more efficient if the city simply follows federal and state law, as federal and state law may change over the year. Okay. Automatically, these employers will be swept in for the exemption.
Okay. I'm sure there's some other questions, but let's hear from the Bureau of Contract Administration first and how the enforcement efforts on this ordinance are going to move forward.
Good afternoon. I'm Kimberly Fitzpatrick with the Office of Wage Standards and the Bureau of Contract Administration. Our role was, at Council's direction, to conduct a survey and see what other jurisdictions have done. In doing so, we got a pretty good idea of the best practices, and we have included those in the report that we submitted to you in June. We have worked with the City Council as well as the City Attorney's Office to assist in answering their questions about what others are doing and what the best practices are. We also consulted with business groups as well as community-based organizations to gather input and present a holistic approach or opinion of what approach would be best.
The ordinance provides some flexibility for BCA on enforcement. Will there be a period where you provide employers with warnings rather than citations for their transgressions?
In general, what we found is that very few of the other jurisdictions have actually penalized at all. They have all taken an approach of education. So in our attempts to be consistent, I think that's what we would seek to do, if Council agrees. We will certainly institute a robust educational campaign to notify employers, but the fact of the matter is we probably won't reach every single employer and every single contractor. So in light of the fact that there may be some who just don't know yet when we come knocking on their door, we would certainly take into account the situation as we found it. And one of the recommendations that we made was to build in that flexibility into the penalty structure. So the language says up to $500, and that would allow us that flexibility to take into account the situation that we find. Did they know? How cooperative are they? Are they willing to make it right immediately? All of those factors would go into us determining whether a penalty would be enforced.
Will BCA be creating any documents to help employers follow through, comply?
Absolutely. There will be rules and regulations that we'll be working on, as well as some forms and some guidelines, for example, to advise them on how to institute the fair chance process and how to conduct an assessment. If they do conduct a background check and find that there may be a criminal history, they then need to conduct an assessment on that specific case to determine if that particular criminal infraction has a direct relationship to the specific job. And a lot of employers aren't going to have an idea what that entails.
Right.
So we will be working with our partners in the city attorney's office to provide some guidance to them.
Downloadable forms and things
Yes,
of that
in
nature.
multiple languages. We will certainly try to make that information as accessible as far and wide as possible.
Well, as you reach out to develop the rules and regs, I just want to encourage you to make sure you're touching base not only with advocates but also with business community as well to make sure that the discussion moves forward. Colleagues, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the report. And thank you for everyone who testified and told your personal stories. I'm a huge believer in ban the box and always have been. I have a few questions, though, since I'm relatively new to the rodeo here on this committee. And that is, in Section 189, the last paragraph, it states, numerous other cities have similarly adopted regulations preventing inquiry into job applications, criminal history until after it is determined they're qualified for the position. And I think that is, in my view, the laudable goal here, so that someone truly gets a fair chance and an employer has said, you know what, I think that I'll offer them a job. My question is, have other cities, and you mentioned numerous other cities, have they also imposed limiting private employers from inquiring into or seeking a job applicant's criminal history until a conditional offer of employment has been made to that individual? Does that differ from what other cities have done? In other words, an employer determines that this person is qualified, period. Are we going above and beyond what other cities have done by imposing this regulation as well? Or what have other cities done in relation to the conditional offer of employment?
Our model is very consistent with all of the other major cities that we looked at, New York, San Francisco, Seattle, Washington, D.C. This tends to be the standard practice.
Okay, so they determine that the person's qualified through the interview process. They do the conditional offer of employment, and that's what New York does and these cities that you already mentioned. Okay. A couple of other questions. I know that one, I think Ms. Berend mentioned low-level and nonviolent offenses. Is that a qualifying factor here in terms of a formerly convicted felon, or is it just in general felony convictions?
Yeah, it includes any felony conviction, but that might be a factor that might come out in the fair chance process. Either the remoteness of the conviction or an indirect link between the conduct and the duties and responsibilities of the job, or maybe just a mitigating factor that it was a low-level activity, sort of unrelated to the job position.
Okay,
But
so
it applies to, I'm sorry, Councilor, it applies to convictions of a felony or misdemeanor, with the caveat that the conviction is one for which the person has been placed on probation, fine, imprisoned, or paroled. So it otherwise would apply to felony or misdemeanor.
So it doesn't distinguish if it's been of a conviction of violent or assault nature or a nonviolent or assault nature.
That's correct.
And then in terms of what would an employer be required to disclose to other employees some sort of criminal conviction? In other words, is there a liability concern here, especially if it is in relation to a former violent felony against an individual, vis-a-vis a new coworker who doesn't know and it's disclosed later? Just probing.
Yeah, the ordinance does not address that at all. I'm
not addressed.
The other ordinances that touch on that issue in other municipalities.
Okay. And many corporate and private employers prohibit hiring, it's on the application, formerly hiring felons. This, in essence, would make that illegal in the city of Los Angeles.
That's correct.
From the box to the line of questioning during an interview process.
Yeah, all three primary substantive provisions of the ordinance apply to private employers through this ordinance, and that is the removal of the box on the applications, the inquiry as to criminal convictions prior to a conditional offer of employment being made, and then the individual assessment if a criminal conviction does turn up during the review process.
Okay, and it would be that 5-day window.
triggering the 5-day window.
The Fair Chance Initiative process is a 5-day window for that process to run.
Okay. And a lot of employers, or small businesses especially, need to hire very quickly. Sometimes you come into a restaurant and that's 1 out of every 10 employees in Los Angeles works at a restaurant. They like the person, they might do a few reference checks, and they hand them their apron and say, can you be back here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock? So, in other words, filling a position quickly. Now, if you're an employer who needs to fill a position quickly, would you simply forego the conditional offer of employment, searching through what the concerns could be? You would simply bypass that entirely and just offer the job after a few reference checks. If I'm an employer, I'm thinking that's what I would.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it only applies to employers with 10 or more employees, so it eliminates very small businesses and employers.
But a lot of restaurants have many more than 10 employees, part-time and full-time.
Yeah.
So it would encompass.
Yeah, we recognize that there are going to be lots of variations in the formality of processes, but the definition of employees and employers is broad enough to cover those type of situations. Now, yeah, it's going to be hard to predict how it's actually going to manifest itself, and that might shake out as we go through the regulations process and how it might be applied in those type of situations. But it generally is to be covered under the provisions of the ordinance.
But nothing would, correct me if I'm wrong, nothing would preclude an employer, such as a restaurant owner, from hiring on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Good for them. Right? If that's what their needs are, they'll have the opportunity to do that. The U.S. ordinance won't preclude that.
Okay, thank you.
Members, any additional thoughts, comments? Well, colleagues, as you've heard, there are people here today in the audience who can attest to the importance of this policy, who face discrimination in the job market, and whose stories can much better illustrate the impact of the policy than I could ever describe. But I'm proud to stand with them today and to support this ordinance to enact a fair chance policy in the city of Los Angeles. And so I'd like to recommend that we approve the draft ordinance before us. And if there's no objection, that will be the order.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
that would apply to both.
That would apply to both. All right, thank you. Mr. Clerk, is there any other business before us at this time?
No, sir.
This meeting is adjourned.